if I leave you with one thought when I leave this dais here and all of us go home, is that if you crack the issue of operations and maintenance and how to fund that, you've won the battle of transit. And if indeed you believe that transit is the solution to creating the type of vibrant region that we want to be, then you've got to take the challenge of doing that. Because I've got to tell you, the issue of developing the funding for a capital job is large, but it's not huge or insurmountable. The issue of sorting out the operations and maintenance of 30 years, 50 years of perpetuity of a service is the big one. Now, I'm going to address the issue of public-private partnership just a tad, because I too believe in public-private partnership, but I'm not blinded by public-private partnership. What that does is it creates a funding mechanism. It doesn't create, it creates a financing mechanism, not funding. There's a difference between the two. You do what you're suggesting, Neeson, you shift risk. But unless you're having just a total private venture in transportation, like the airlines, where you pay the ticket, you're not subsidized by anyone, you're paying fair share of what it costs to go from here to LaGuardia, so be it. That's not the case when you're talking about transit. And let me talk about one that I'm familiar with. Here in Miami-Dade County, we have incredibly progressive fare policies for our folks. It was part of our half-penny trade-off when we did the surtax. So seniors, anyone over 65 rides, and people used to call it free. I think everyone that I deal with now says it's not free, it's totally subsidized, because nothing's free, it's subsidized. If you're on the mover, which I'm delighted to know that you ride all the time, because I think it's a wonderful service, that's not free, that's totally subsidized. And when you start adding all these total subsidies, which are there for really good and valid reasons of, you know, do you want your seniors to drive? Do you want your seniors to have the freedom to have mobility and to have a more, you know, a more wonderful type of life experience? Those are good reasons. Those are valid reasons. But it costs you. It costs you. So your policies need to line up with your funding and with your financing. You can't have it all. You got to choose. If you want to have an expanded transit system to these areas that we need to link up, folks, and we need to link them up, there is no good reason why we have not better linked downtown Miami to Miami Beach, which is where our tourists want to go. Right? We need to do that. I think most people would agree. But if we're going to do that, then you either need to generate more money or you need to change your policies so that more people pay. It's either guns or butter. You gotta make some choices. Now, I think that they're all choices that can be made. And they're all things that are doable. But again, I would urge you to look at those who benefit paying, because you asked us for some specific recommendations. And I'll tell you, a long time ago, 30 years ago, I was involved in the Route 28 taxing district in Virginia. People wanted, the region took it as a priority to improve, and improving is term words for widening lanes, in case you haven't figured that one out. They want to widen Route 28, which is a key business corridor in Fairfax County, going up to Loudoun County in the Virginia suburbs of the Washington, D.C. area. And there was no money. But the region made some interesting choices. They said, A, this is important to us. B, it's more important to the Route 28 neighborhood than it is to other parts of the region. And so they started to apply equity principles, and they said, well, Route 20, he who profits on this this improvement of Route 28 needs to be the one who primarily pays for this. And that's what they did. They developed a taxing district where that happened. It was one of the earlier ones that happened around the nation. Well, those things can happen in this area as well. It's just, do you want to do that? Do you want to, is there the fortitude to do that? Is that what we want to do in terms of equity? Or do we want to do something else? I think the most expensive solution, though, that will cost us in the vitality of this region is not to do anything. Okay? There are solutions. We just need to kind of have the intestinal fortitude to take them on and then, but take them on together as a group of people.
I promised to keep us on time today, but we do have time for a question or two. Does anyone have a question of the panel before we let them go this afternoon?
Is there any thought going towards putting any of the MDX toll money into transit? It's something that just makes sense, and rather than funding additional highway building, still maintaining what's built, but using it maybe for maintenance of transit or building new transit.
Okay, let me. All of us want other people's money. I'm the first one that want other people's money. I don't represent MDX, but I will tell you what my conversations have been with them. They have been reluctant to use toll money to do any of the operations and maintenance associated with transit. And I can understand that because remember I said that's the most expensive of all money because it's in perpetuity. But they have been very friendly to the notion that their roads, whether it's the Dolphin Expressway or the Gratney or whatever, can be the roadbed for express bus lanes. And that's really important because if we can use their shoulders, if we can use part of their lanes as the exclusive roadway, then we can simulate the type of traffic, of person carrying capability that we need, that, a good busway, I mean a really good busway. We have a good busway in US 1, but it's got signals. We all know that's kind of like kissing your cousin. I mean, I'm talking about one where you can move. It's an exclusive busway like we could have on the Dolphin in the future, and we're working with MDX, would be beautiful because we, the transit provider, would not have to be paying for the road, which is expensive. We would be paying for the operations and maintenance. But then my next conversation to MDX is, okay, but you know what? I need park and rides. And I need exclusive ramps to come into these roads so that my buses don't get stuck in the same traffic as everybody else jumping into the busway. Let's talk about what we can really make happen together, and they have been willing to do that. Just not cover the O&M. They don't want to cover diesel fuel yet.
One more question.
Oh, thank you. Raquel Regalado, first of all, as a member of the Executive Committee, thank you so much to the panelists for being here, and thank you for your frankness. I think when it comes to transportation, we really appreciate it. Earlier you were talking about Metro Rail, and I remember, I think I was like 12 years old, being at the Clark Center when they launched the model, and the first stop was supposed to be the airport. And I remember the hand that the taxi lobby had in preventing that. So I'm with you in how important it is to see that. And also as a native Miamian, I know that in the 1940s there was a trolley that went from downtown Miami to the beach. So we're not talking about innovative things. We're talking about necessary things. But in the example of the city of Miami, getting the trolley system approved by Miami-Dade County was almost a nightmare. And I'd like to ask you about that intergovernmental issue because the county is technically in charge of transportation, and when the cities try to do a little bit more, they run into a lot of roadblocks.
I'm not familiar with the fact that it became a nightmare because, in fact, when it was finally presented to us, we went in and negotiated some adjustments in some of our bus routes. For example, how many of y'all are from Miami? So you can, okay, all right, about 1/3. Miami-Dade Transit was servicing Brickell Key, which is this small, tiny place that has some very important, high-density uses within the Key. But I would not say it's one of the large destinations for, for bus traffic. Now, we did serve an important purpose. We took a lot of service people to the Mandarin and to other employment opportunities. So one of the things that we traded off with the city of Miami was that if we didn't have to go in to Brickell Key, we could have a better, a more straight route for our transit patrons along the major thoroughfare. And once we negotiated that, that was fine. But my board, as soon as it came to them, and we talked about it, and they asked me, well, do you support this? As a transit director, I said, absolutely do. Then it went through. So it must have been some of the behind-the-scenes stuff that happened that I'm not aware of. And if it happened the way you said, shame on all of us, because things that make sense should not be difficult to do.
I'm going to ask our panelists if they can to stick around. I know some more.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Daniela Levine, Catalyst Miami. I want to invite you all, March 8th and 9th. We're part of Purple Line. It's a pop-up transit hub village installation in the Design District, and we've just arranged to have TEDx Buena Vista hosted there. And we're going to talk about what happens when private and public come together and using the private FEC line to hopefully also spur local transit development.
Thank you, Daniela.
Thank you.
I want to thank our panelists. Please give them a round of applause.